they'll say, "Yo, we need $30 million to retrain all of our officers," and just wait a second, you're just follow the law, man. Like, we're not asking anything extra. You've already been trained on this. You don't need $30 million to do the stuff you're already supposed to be doing.
Right. When you buy a ticket to an airline, if there's a new tax to say like so that our pilots can learn to fly, you'd be like, what the fuck? Well, like, hold on. I assume you know how to fly. Like you can charge me for like a better seat or like snacks on the plane, extra additionals, but like complying with the Fourth Amendment is like every law enforcement agency has to comply with the Constitution. That's not like an optional. That's not, you can't come out of the academy unless you know that.
Sergio, what's happening?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. What's going on, man?
Thanks so much for having me, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll just do the intro right quick. Sergio, who, I mean, we met in Portland 5 years ago at this point. But for those unfamiliar, Sergio right now is an investigative reporter for a nonprofit news organization called CalMatters. He's also worked as a freelance reporter for a lot of places, New York Times, NPR, The Guardian. You reported on protests, immigration, the war in Ukraine, a lot of other stuff. But yeah, man, how's it going right now? What we on?
It's good, man. I was actually listening to the trial last night. I was like, you know, when you're burned out and you worked all day and you just kind of don't have that much brain cells left.
Yes.
I put on the trial, that the National Guard trial, like the audio. It's like 4 hours, and I was like playing a video game and just like listening to the trial, playing the video game, and I actually was paying really good attention while playing. It was weird. Like if I was just sitting there, like actually watching it, I was tuned out.
Dude, that is me all the time. All the time. I've done research for stuff and been playing Halo and just practicing or whatever all the time. There's something about it. It's kind of like, you know, how people will be on the phone and they'll like draw or something like that, or in a meeting and they'll kind of doodle or whatever. I think it's that. There's something about using your motor skills while you're using your brain. It like keeps them separate somehow. It helps you lock in more. Yeah. Well, so tell me about it. Tell us. We can jump into that. This is a side of
the
it.
trial. So that one's the state of California brought this lawsuit against the Trump administration when they federalized the National Guard. They had the National Guard and the Marines out here, and the trial is really interesting. Actually, it started yesterday. Today they're hearing arguments, and tomorrow. And these 2 days, the judge laid it out like it's streamed online live, and the judge is very aware that like the public's listening, the press. So he opened up the trial by saying like, let me just run down what's going on here. And I've never seen like a judge so eloquently and like simply. He's like, listen, we have two things to decide here: whether the military was used in California in violation of the Posse Comitatus Act, which is you can't use you can't use the military for law enforcement stuff. Right. We all know that West Wing episode, right? Posse Comitatus. And then he's like, and then the second thing we're going to debate on Monday or on Wednesday is this procedural things that the government is alleging, like, hey, state of California brought a civil suit against a federal, criminal statute, like using the military for police actions is actually a crime. It says. Right. The most interesting part was they had the general who was in charge of the operations here, Scott Sherman. He was on the witness chair, and at one point they asked him, did Gregory Bavino, the chief border patrol agent who's in charge of the LA operations, he requested military aid for the MacArthur Park operation. You remember that?
Oh, yes. We will talk about that, but yes, I remember that very well. Yeah.
Right. So he asked the military to like bring vehicles, and General Scott Sherman was like, no, like he declined it. And I guess Bavino, so the prosecutor, or the attorney asked, is it true that Gregor Bavino questioned your loyalty to the country? And he's like, yes. And the government attorney was like, objection.
You objected to that original request for assistance related to the MacArthur Park operation, correct?
That is correct.
And Chief Gregory Bavino of the Department of Homeland Security criticized you for objecting to that request, correct?
He did.
And specifically, Chief Bavino questioned your loyalty to the country for objecting to that original MacArthur Park operation.
He did.
Objection. Relevance.
Sorry? Objection.
Objecting to the relevance of this line of questioning.
Objection. Like his loyalty is irrelevant here, and the judge is like, no, like that. This is relevant. Like
that's yes, I'm going to agree that's relevant, man.
Yeah, and 33 years in service apparently that general has been, and for Gregor Bavino, who never served in the military, to question his loyalty to the country, I thought that was like,
yo, So I asked you on to talk about this restraining order, which most people, they think of a restraining order, that's something that, one gets when there's a stalker, there's, an abusive partner or something like that. Temporary restraining order in the context of the federal government is not something that most people would think about. That's what I wanted to talk about. In the time in between me asking you and today, I think a lot of people are thinking about some larger news, which is Liberation Day. I would argue that these two things are connected, and you might be following me already. But for those unfamiliar, I want to pull up a clip right quick, and we'll watch this. So this is ABC News. They actually do it pretty concisely here.
For the first time in American history, the president seizing control of the police in the nation's capital and deploying hundreds of National Guardsmen. Trump says to fight crime on the streets of Washington, D.C.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back.
Still, the president said today the D.C. police will now be able to do whatever they want.
Standing there and people are spitting in their face and they're not allowed to do anything. But now they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want.
Mayor Muriel Bowser today acknowledging her hands are tied. D.C. is not a state, and the president does have the authority to take over the city's police department. Tonight, he's threatening to do this to other cities, saying the model in Washington, D.C. could be used to combat crime in cities like Chicago, Oakland, and Baltimore, all cities notably in Democratic-led states.
Also pretty heavily black and brown cities. I think I'm starting to see a line coming from the Washington, D.C. Liberation Day, whatever. That didn't come out of nowhere. Something came before that. And I would argue a lot of this, we should be looking at what was happening in L.A., what's happening in California, and also a lot of the stuff that you've been covering.
Yeah. Actually, in the trial yesterday, they actually asked the general if he had seen the clip of Pete Hegseth saying that we're going to bring the National Guard to D.C. and we did it like we did in Los Angeles. And the general was like, I hadn't seen that. They're all sequestered, so they're like. And I was reminded of how sober the military is and how not ostentatious. I mean, the general was very clearly we were sent here in support. To decline the MacArthur Park operation, that got sent up to his commander, that then got sent up to the Secretary of Defense. Pete Hegseth apparently personally approved the MacArthur Park operation, which just tells you that multiple rungs along the military were nope. It had to get to him.
Yeah, man. Okay, we keep talking about MacArthur Park operation, which we're gonna get to, but I want to play another thing here. And so this is one of your recent pieces. Sometimes I think people might get distracted from why the protests are happening. They'll think, oh, wow, people are out protesting. Okay, what are these protests about? Here's some of it right here.
In total, over 100 videos have been geolocated and verified, displaying patterns of where DHS has focused their efforts, including raids at over 15 separate Home Depots, private farmland, and a swap meet. The examination also revealed many instances of use of force. In several instances where witnesses said that Border Patrol agents detained people on private property without a warrant. The raids in Los Angeles appear to be designed to meet aggressive deportation quotas passed down from Trump officials, who have ordered ICE to raid specific businesses across the country. But they've already been barred from conducting similar raids in the next district over, California's Central Valley. A judge there said they likely violated the Constitution. In April, a federal judge issued a preliminary injunction barring the Border Patrol from conducting warrantless raids in the Central Valley. That injunction is still in place in the Eastern District of California.
Yeah, here we go.
But it has no bearing on California's Central District, which includes Los Angeles County. El Centro Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino, who was recently tapped to oversee DHS operations in Los Angeles.
I'm Greg Bovino, Chief Patrol Agent of the El Centro Border Patrol Sector and Lead Federal Coordinator for Customs and Border Protection entities here in Los Angeles.
We spoke with Bovino after he conducted Operation Return to Sender.
I think the general public does see a difference between the paletero or the citrus worker and the fentanyl dealer, that they are not both on the same field. If they cross the border illegally, then they're coming with us. They are under arrest and they're coming with us.
They need to leave, and they need to leave right now.
In an attempt to temporarily halt DHS's operations in Los Angeles.
This is the MacArthur Park thing that we were talking about. So
this was a kind of show of force, right? Ken Klippenstein published those leaked docs that shows this was like they were trying to show that they could move freely through Los Angeles, and this MacArthur Park operation was specifically brought up multiple times in the trial yesterday because apparently there was, in the preparation for this, the military prepared their assessment and said the threat of inaction, like the cost of doing nothing, was low. There was no high-profile targets, likely no arrests. So like the military was like, if we don't do anything, it's fine here. There's not, the cost of inaction is low.
right, yeah, and so by show of force, essentially later they basically posted a hype video.
I got royalty inside my DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like for the show of force thing, by the way, is like it's like, you know, this in the military, this is a real thing, right? And you have forward operating bases, right? Like in Afghanistan, you have foot patrols go out to kind of show the freedom of movement, to show the enemy that you can control the area. Like this goes back to like you know, we had two long wars, right? To do that in Los Angeles is like, this is not, there's no insurgency here. You don't need a freedom of movement. We all can move through, we can all drive to MacArthur Park. What do you mean freedom of movement, right? Like,
Right.
This is not occupied territory. This is not, we're not in a war. That 3,000, we named that, you know, Stephen Miller had very famously said that they were looking to round up 3,000 people a day. And the judge in the Ninth Circuit, which is, you pulled up the map of the Central District where we are in Los Angeles. When that judge, District Judge Frimpong, issued the TRO, the government challenged that, and they went to the Ninth Circuit, which is the court above it, that the appeals court, to the higher court, to say, hey, take the TRO away. We should not have this. One of the judges in there was like, asked the government, like, is it true that there's a directive to round up 3,000 people a day? And the attorney was like, I honestly, I have not seen that. I couldn't tell you. I don't know. And the district judge was like, write a letter to the court, go find out, and we want to know. And then they did write a letter, and they said, like, there is no directive as far as we see to round up 3,000 people a day. So that's interesting, because that's the first confirmation that, like, there is no official policy on that. There's still questions about, like, well, especially with the Trump administration, a lot of what he says is he'll say stuff, and then the people below him are trying to do his bidding, even if it's not written down anywhere.
You know, at this point, I mean, so much has changed. This headline from July 11th that, you know, you co-authored here, the headline says, judge says immigration agents must stop roving patrols that have upended Southern California.
So this was a temporary restraining order. The ACLU and a host of other, like the People's Council, a host of other groups put this forward. UFW is a plaintiff, and then the city of Los Angeles signed on, the county of Los Angeles, surrounding cities, Pasadena, like, and I have never seen that, where advocates and the city, the county, the municipalities all around are all on the same side, right? Usually it's this ACLU suing the city or something, right? They're all on the same side. On the other side is Trump's DHS, right? And all the federal agencies that have been assisting with immigration raids. So they put this lawsuit forward, and while the lawsuit's taking place, they asked for a temporary restraining order, and I had to learn all this. Like, I had to ask multiple lawyers, like, to draw in crayons what this means. They were like, so what this means is that the plaintiffs, in this case, you have United Farm Workers, all the people that they're representing, all the plaintiffs, they would be so damaged, they would be so hurt as this case goes on by the actions of the defendant, in this case, the federal government, that if the judge doesn't right now put a stop to this while they litigate the case, by the end of the case, which could take years, the plaintiffs would be so hurt, so damaged, that they might not be able to get any relief at the end of this. So you have to put a stop. It would be like if Dexter, you were punching me right now, like in the face repeatedly.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, listen, I'm going to take you to court. Well, first you got to stop punching me. Then we can decide if this was assault, right? Like, just stop punching me right now. Like, because by the time we get to the police station, I'm going to be a bloody pulp, right? So that's all the TRO is. And the TRO, the temporary restraining order, again, we hear it in the context of like a domestic dispute, like, you can't visit my house, there's a restraining order against you. It's not so different. The judge outlines what they can't do. And that is temporary. It's temporary restraining order. It only lasts 14 days. I think it can get up to 28 days, but it always goes away. And after that is what's called a preliminary injunction, which is the exact same thing, except that it lasts for the duration of the case, which could take years. And that hearing is scheduled for the 24th of September, where they will argue whether the judge should grant this preliminary injunction. The temporary restraining order, we'll get to the Supreme Court in a second. The temporary restraining order, it does two things. One of them is not contested, which is access to the people that are detained in the B18, that facility in downtown. That attorneys should have access to detainees. That one's not even contested. The thing that the federal government is contesting is the judge said there's 4 things that ACLU is arguing should not be used for criteria to form reasonable suspicion. And this means that ICE, Border Patrol, FBI, who's ever out there, when they detain someone, they can't use these 4 factors. And one of them is apparent race or ethnicity. Right? So they can't, if you're Latino, you can't use that as a basis of why you suspect this person is in the country unlawfully.
Right.
And the Ninth Circuit later, they brought up that 45% of the people in this district are Hispanic.
Yeah.
Right? And so if that was if you could use race or ethnicity, that would mean half the people that live here have reasonable. You can stop them because it's reasonable suspicion they're in the country lawfully. Obviously, that's insane. The second one was where people. The second one is if people speak Spanish or English with an accent. So they were saying the judge says you can't use that. If someone's just speaking Spanish, a lot of people in this district speak Spanish.
Yeah.
A lot of people speak with an accent. My parents speak with an accent. Sometimes my accent comes out. That's not reasonable suspicion. The second one is where they gather and also what kind of jobs they do. So if they're landscapers, if they're at a Home Depot, this was specifically called out, or a car wash, just being there is not reasonable suspicion because many people go to Home Depot. Many people work at a car wash who have proper documentation. That you can't just go to a Home Depot and say, you speak Spanish, you're at a Home Depot, and you're Latino. I have reasonable suspicion in the country lawfully. The judge is like, no, you have to have something that's not that. That can be there. Those things can be true. They're like little, if you when you come back from Europe, you know how you have euros in your pocket that are useless here? They can be in your pocket. You just can't pay for things with those here. Like you have to have other reasons.
Right.
But they can be present. It's not like barring you arresting for Latino people. So this is basic Fourth Amendment stuff, right? Like you have to have an actual reason that they may be causing some kind of crime or doing something unlawful. Once the judge put that in place, the raids dropped off pretty significantly, and we know that because me and you have been out there a lot of activist pages. This page called People of Papers. There's a lot less sightings. Mayor Karen Bass has also said there's been a lot less raids. They took it to the higher court. Higher court agreed with the lower court, and now they've taken that to Supreme Court. Yeah,
I mean, there's a bit in here that I think could almost go under the radar here. Are you seeing this on your screen here?
So that was the funniest thing in the trial. The trial was, by the way, kind of funny. I mean, it was here in Los Angeles. You could only take notes. It wasn't live streamed, so that's why there's no clips of it. But you have to write down things very fast. And by the way, I'm a terrible writer. Like I was looking at the other reporters' notebooks, and they're so clean. And I basically have like stick figures. So in there, the government attorney asked at one point, okay, if you're going to put this TRO in place, and we're going to have to retrain our agents, and that's going to cost a significant amount of money. So we're going to need $30 million. The judge was like, you don't need $30 million because this is all that we're asking for is to comply with the Fourth Amendment, which you should already be trained on. That's part of your training. So no, the plaintiffs aren't going to pay for you to be trained on the Fourth Amendment. That's part of that's your basic burden.
Yeah. I mean, that is kind of wild that they'll say, yo, we need $30 million to retrain all of our officers, and just wait a second, you're just follow the law, man. Like we're not asking anything extra. You've already been trained on this. You don't need $30 million to do the stuff you're already supposed to be doing.
Right. When you buy a ticket to an airline, if there's a new tax to say so that our pilots can learn to fly, you'd be like, what the fuck? Well, hold on. I assume you know how to fly. Like you can charge me for a better seat or snacks on the plane, extra additionals, but complying with the Fourth Amendment is every law enforcement agency has to comply with the Constitution. That's not an optional. That's not you can't get retrained. I mean, you can't come out of the academy unless you know that. It's interesting seeing this stuff argued in federal court because, when you make an argument, like a debate, like in speech and debate in high school and college, there's all kinds of arguments that are clearly they're just spaghetti at the wall, like
Yeah.
procedural stuff, all kinds of stuff you throw up to try to like hamper the other side. But in real life, it's a bit insulting, isn't it? Like at one point when the judge was like, I see that the agents are wearing masks. It's pretty clear. I can't even identify them. Like, why are they wearing masks? And the government attorney was like, well, since COVID-19, actually, it's pretty common to wear masks. And it's like, okay, like we all know that's not why they're wearing masks. That is kind of, I mean, I don't know how much that plays into it, but there's no way, like a judge lives on earth. They're not going to be like, oh, they said they're wearing masks because of COVID-19.
Right.
Others, like the judge can use their own like judgment to be like that.
Yeah.
You're
Common
bullshitting
sense
me right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, okay. So there's there's this temporary restraining order that's basically said, look, you're essentially alleging you're profiling, and you're profiling people. You really got to stop doing this, and we can fight this out later, but until then, you need to put a hold on this. Trump administration goes back and says, you got to lift this because we shouldn't be subject to this restraining order because we need to continue to arrest and deport people.
Yeah, the Solicitor General John Sauer took it to the Supreme Court. Their shadow docket. That photo up there is by our friend ETN. That's ETN, our mutual friend. Not him getting arrested, but the photo.
Right, he took it. Yeah.
So they took it to the shadow docket, and again, I had this explained to me because I didn't know what any of this was. So the shadow docket means that the Supreme Court's not in like they're not gonna there's not gonna be oral arguments likely. There's not gonna be a time where friends of the court can file like an amicus brief in support or whatever of this. There's not gonna be any opinions likely. The Supreme Court's gonna read this and basically issue an order, like yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
They're either gonna say yes, the TR goes away. We don't agree with the Ninth Circuit. Take this TR away, or they're gonna say we agree with the Ninth Circuit. This should be in place, for the time being. The reason an opinion here would be, I think, good for everyone is that this is a Fourth Amendment issue, right? Like, unlike other decisions, like it's not like the Trump wants to fire everybody at the State Department, right? Like the State Department's under the executive branch, he wants to fire everyone, and it's a question of how much power does the president have to control his own branch. This is a question of the Fourth Amendment, right? If law enforcement can use race to stop someone, well then, at this point, if me or you go to 7-Eleven and we get stopped, then immigration could just say, well, yeah, it's because you're Latino or you're black.
Yeah.
And then that would be legal, which
Right.
is like that. That's not right. Like, come on, that's not. You can't stop someone based on their race. Like this should be bedrock. So the reason an opinion here would be good is that if they did decide to agree with the government, if they were to articulate like, hey, like you can't use race, but we're saying this, and that would be better, because if they do side with the government on this and TR goes away, the government attorneys in Los Angeles can say, well, the Supreme Court agreed with everything we said. Like everything, they didn't issue an opinion. So everything they said is, we take the cake, right? So it's not clear if the Supreme Court's going to rule in the next, week and a half. They may delay it until they're, in full session and they can have oral arguments. We don't know, but that's where we're at right now. And by the way, just to be clear, when they rule on this, it will be specifically whether the TRO goes away or stays. It's not deciding like case law it's not changing the Constitution, but it does mean that if, for example, if they were to, ICE just got a lot of funding, if they were to start these operations in Chicago or somewhere else, and someone there files a temporary restraining order, they're definitely going to look to this and say, well, the Supreme Court's likely going to decline that because they did in California. So in that sense, it's pretty big.
Yeah,
I mean, it's pretty big anyway.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing is what, again, and I'm tying it back to what we're seeing in DC. I think the federal government is looking at various cities and saying, okay, well, if this works in Los Angeles, could this work elsewhere? Can we apply this elsewhere? And hold on, where is this hype video on? What
You gotta go to
Instagram
his
account?
Facebook or his Instagram. It's Bavino's personal. Yeah.
Right. You were right. I completely forgot. I was looking at official channels. I forgot that Bavino himself likes to post stuff just on his own page. I completely forgot about that. So here's his IG page right here, and
That one on the bottom right is the Penske van one.
Okay.
That's the one I think that Bass is in.
yeah, you know what? Let's watch actually. So somewhat differently, Fox News did a piece on this, so we could just we can play a little bit of this. Have you seen the Fox News piece on this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Play it,
you know
yeah.
what? Let's
No,
just
play
watch
it. It's worth watching.
It is absolutely worth watching. Actually, I think it's kind of good, actually, in some ways. Let's watch this one. So this is Fox News, video titled "Viral Home Depot California Border Patrol Raid in Los Angeles Caught on Camera." I mean, it's caught on camera because they were in the here.
Fox News exclusively embedding with Customs and Border Protection for an
Exclusively embedding with okay, yeah, sorry, I'll rewind, but yeah.
Fox News exclusively embedding with Customs and Border Protection for an immigration raid in Los Angeles.
It was called Operation Trojan Horse, and DHS tells us it was the first time they used unmarked rental trucks during an immigration enforcement here in Los Angeles. DHS drove those trucks into a parking lot of a Home Depot near MacArthur Park. One of the Border Patrol...
I used to go to this spot all the time. I used to live right up next to MacArthur Park. I used to play soccer in MacArthur Park. Sorry.
Yeah.
Drivers
I mean, it's a
did pose as someone looking for work, but then immigration agents came out of the trucks and dozens of people scattered. 16 people were taken into custody. We are working on confirming their information right now. Now, agents got in and out in a matter of minutes. DHS says they did surveillance of this area prior, and they used the rental trucks because they claim there's too many scouts in this area. Now, I talked with Border Patrol Chief Greg Bavino and asked for his response to critics who say enforcements like this are just targeting people looking for work.
And when we look at the damage that unmitigated immigration has caused to this country, look at the Jacqueline Nungareys and the Kate Steinleys and all those that have been hurt, maimed, and killed by illegal aliens, I think they need to redirect their attention and maybe think a little harder before they say things like that.
Now, last month, LA Mayor Karen Bass showed up in person to a federal immigration raid at MacArthur Park. Bass claims yesterday's Trojan Horse operation may have violated a recent temporary restraining order.
What we've been talking about.
Judge aimed at preventing alleged discrimination by the Trump administration during raids here. Now, Penske has released a statement about DHS using the trucks, writing in part, Penske strictly prohibits the transportation of people in the cargo area of its vehicles under any circumstances. The company was not made aware that its trucks would be used in today's operation and did not authorize this. Penske will reach out to DHS and reinforce its policy to avoid improper use of its vehicles in the future. Now, DHS did respond to Penske's statement in a now deleted post. And DHS pointed to an incident in 2023 when nearly 60 migrants were busted in a human smuggling operation. And at that point, Penske did not release a statement about their truck being used in that incident.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you why I like this report, actually. And I have to take a few steps back for this, but if you have the information, they're actually giving you a lot to work with here. I mean, the thing at the very end is it's sort of silly, you know, like, oh, Penske said that Penske didn't say anything about the fact that people use their van in a smuggling operation. I mean, okay, that wasn't a government agency. If a government agency uses your vans, it's pretty reasonable to think, well, oh, I wonder if they've got a contract with Penske.
Like if someone downloads a song off LimeWire, Sony's not going to release a statement. But if you know Trump uses a song at a rally and does not license it, like the artist has the right to be like, you did not license what like. There's a huge difference. You don't have to comment on any individual little crime by a specific private citizen, but yeah, a government using your stuff as part of their operation, which is highly unpopular. I mean, they're a public company, like they have every right to say like, no, we're not. This is not who we are.
Moving aside, the information that's given in this report, actually, if you know what's going on, it's actually, I would actually say it's fairly important, informative. Again, you kind of have to know what's going on here. I should back that up by saying, just looking at comments here, a lot of people are maybe not picking up on that. Karen Bass is showing who's paying here. Mayor of LA. Karen Bass is a joke. Our mayor needs to be arrested. Get Penske out of business because they're mad that they made that statement. This is every Home Depot in America. But this brings me to where's the restraining order?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Well, look, that's for attorneys. Like, this is if they violate a restraining order by the court, as journalists, that's not for us to decide. So it's a tough one. It's like this is a legal question. In terms of how it looks, they said they had intelligence that MS-13 had a stronghold there, right? So it sounds like they're saying, well, we're not going to Home Depot because people work there. We're going there because this criminal gang has some kind of headquarters or their stronghold there.
Right.
Which, again, it's almost like what I mentioned about in court saying they're wearing masks because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
Common sense says, like, well, hold on. There's a Food for Less. There's a McDonald's. There's a Home Depot there. And also before all this, you were going to Home Depots and you got stopped by the court. You're going back to a Home Depot, like it's also like in the morning. Everybody knows gangsters, man. Like 8 a.m. You're gonna like. Have you never do you not know where? Like, do you want to find gangs? Because unless you grew up in like some shelter environment, that you're not going to find them at 8 a.m. anywhere. Like they don't wake up early, man. Like that's not like I think for the general public, this seemed like what it was, which is thumbing their nose at the court, saying like, oh, you think you're going to stop us? I mean, Bill Asaley, the U.S. attorney, and Bavino have both said like immigration enforcement hasn't stopped. I think they're very clearly saying you're not going to stop us. Like that's the messaging they're putting out there.
Yeah. Here's the version that you were talking about. Let's watch this. Thumbing your nose at the courts is actually an interesting way of putting it. But yeah, let's watch this. So this is U.S. Border Patrol Chief. This is Greg Bavino, who you've spoken to, which I think is really actually valuable that you were able to speak to him in that interview that we saw a little snippet of before a whole lot of other people were really paying attention to this guy because he's in the spotlight now.
Hoping that the administration will recognize that this experiment that was practiced on the city of Los Angeles failed, and that they should not try any other level of an experiment like this.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is in the city.
I'm actually having, woo, man, this is actually fascinating. I'll turn off the music, but man, yeah, I mean, this is very much, he's in every shot, making him look very cool. Wow, that is interesting. That is very interesting.
Yeah, him in the videos, him and David Kim, his kind of like right-hand man, he's the one with the cowboy hat, their faces are uncovered in like videos, and they, so when I talked to him, he said that he had 5 agents who just did video. I mean, who were hired specifically for video to like shoot video, edit video.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's like this is political messaging, right? This is and this is a nonpartisan agency. Like the Border Patrol works for all of us. They're not a arm of the Republican wing. Like they're a nonpartisan agency. But this is clearly, I mean, this is. He's not a politician. Like he is a civil servant. He's not allowed. He's not allowed to make political statements. That's not part of the job.
Right.
Clearly, this is directed at Mayor Bass, saying like, even the intro let me reintroduce myself, like kind of saying like we're back.
Yeah.
And again, it's a federal court that put a stop to this. It's not like the city or the county. Like this is a federal court saying you have to stop doing this.
Yeah. Look, we're in a position now where Liberation Day has been declared in Washington, D.C. Very, very different model of policing than what anybody's accustomed to seeing in D.C. right now. But yeah, what would you say people should be paying attention to now that there's other things happening in the U.S. here?
I'd say like, well, there's this thing that Masha Gessen wrote about with Russia, and she's that Russian journalist who now writes for the New York Times Opinion. And when I was reading her work a lot when I was in Ukraine, and she talks about like the exhaustion that you don't actually care what truth is anymore. You get like the Russian government does it in a way where it's not that they're lying at some point. It's at some point you are so exhausted by that you don't even have the internal like muscles to even care about what's true anymore, because there's so much of it. I think about that because I think just paying attention to any part of it that you can. If you read one article, see one video, and you don't have patience for another, that's fine. Like, but just paying attention in some way when you can is good, because like this is like a very clear story. There are people that want to establish their dominance, and they're doing it through immigration right now. But then you see clearly, like, they're arresting people who are American citizens, who are like, they're saying that people are assaulting ICE officers, 1,000% increase, they say, in assaults on ICE officers. But then you see these cases go to court and they get kicked because they'll say this guy punched an agent, and then there'll be no punch in the video. Or they'll say, like, you know, they were spitting, and it's like they'll spit a lot on the ground. And in some cases, they are spitting on federal officers. That's true. But like, when you hear assault, you're thinking like, oh, people are getting injured and stuff. And like, it's a lot rare. Like, I'm going through federal cases. It's really rare. But if you're so tired and can't pay attention, all you see is 1,000% increase on assaults on federal agents. You go, okay, well, maybe. But then if you just pay a little attention, you're going, okay, this is pretty simple. This guy, you know, Bavino, clearly is like thumbing his nose at the court, being very aggressive, seeming to enjoy going out and doing this. And, you know, I think everybody has a soft spot for when an immigrant comes here and they want to work and they take a low-paying job. Like, everyone has a soft spot for that. I mean, Gallup just did a poll that support for immigration is at 80%, the highest they've ever recorded. These rates have backfired in that way. Yeah, it's 78%. It's the highest the Gallup has ever recorded support for immigration, right? And just a year ago, immigration was like, everybody agreed. It was like, hey, this is a huge problem that no one has really addressed. There's huge crisis at the border. Like, you would think that, you know, there's been very few crossings at the border, at the southern border. You would think that people might have been, well, you solved it. But except that people are like, no, we support immigration. And in that clip, Bavino talks about, with Fox News, he says, you know, this is the problem with unmitigated immigration. He doesn't even say illegal immigration there. He says unmitigated immigration. Like,
and when we look at the damage that unmitigated immigration has caused to this country,
you know, and DHS will talk about, you know, immigration and, you know, defend the homeland and defend your culture. They're talking about immigration in general, that includes like legal immigration. That's talking about just people coming here, right?
When you saying defend the homeland, defend the culture implies
defend the culture. Yeah,
yeah, that implies some things for a certain demographic that it might not apply for others.
Yeah, I mean, like, years ago, it used to be called the theory that was started like in I think Stormfront, like that Nazi forum, which was the white replacement theory, like
Great Replacement, white genocide, like all this stuff,
that they would bring in people from other cultures, other races to replace the white population. That used to be called, and now it's just kind of DHS is like they tweet like, you know, defend the home, defend your culture. So I think what should people do? I would say, like, this news is exhausting, and there's so much stuff going on. There's other stuff you got to pay attention to. There's other court cases. There's the wars abroad. Like, you know, there's obviously it is exhausting. But to me, the stuff in Los Angeles was sure that the patina was immigration, but really this is a way for the federal government to trample on people's rights and assert their dominance. I mean, the idea that you would use race or ethnicity as reasonable suspicion, like, if that were to be the law of the land, then like 45% of the people here are always under reasonable suspicion. That's what kind of state is that? Like, what kind of country would we be in if, you know, anyone who speaks English with an accent is automatically reasonable suspicion? Like that's what they're arguing for. So if you have any kind of cartilage to pay attention, I would say take it in. This is not that difficult of a story. The courts are saying this is illegal, this is against the Constitution, and they're saying like no.
There is a lot of that now. Somebody says, no, this is not true, you're not telling the truth, or this is not legal, and then administration will just say, no, we're just going to do it like this, or here are the stats. No. And I totally understand what you're saying. I think a lot of people are definitely feeling that it's exhausting. exhausting. I mean, yo, for anybody who is saying, yo, I really don't like watching the news. I don't want to read the news. I got to unplug. Sergio and I feel that.
Yeah.
We've been there. We're there now, maybe. You know what I mean? So it's a real thing. It's a real thing, man.
Yeah.
Where can people find your stuff?
I mean, Twitter, Instagram. I work for CalMatters, so you can go to the CalMatters website. But if you don't want to go to the website, you just follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and all the articles I'll post on there, or the videos, or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if nothing else, hopefully people are able to follow, somebody whose work they appreciate, and yours hopefully should be one of those too. But yeah, man, thanks so much for sharing your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I'd love to come back on and play video games at some point. And
dude, I know. Yeah, when I hit you up, we were like, oh, what are we playing? And I was like, no, not this time. We're gonna talk about real stuff. Next time we'll play a game. I got you. Yeah. I got you, man.
All right, man.
All right.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me on.
All right, appreciate you, man. Easy. And everyone, please say thank you.